Kevin Culp back at you from Supermicro, continue our podcast on deploying SuperCloud Developer Console. So we've completed and rebooted our VM or Ubuntu host, instantiated it under 2204. Let's get connected into the window there. And basically at this point, start giving an IP address to this system. So the first thing we need to do is log in. We're going to log in as Culp K and put our password in. And we're into the operating system here. Let's see. Okay, typed the wrong password. And let's scroll down here. The first thing is we want to give it an IP address, right? So if we do an IP address show here, we see here that the EMP1S0 is there. And you just a little bit of information here. It's using a 52 colon 5400 unique identifier, which is the MAC address. So a little bit about MAC addresses. So the first three octets represent what we call the unique identifier, and the last two is the serial number. So this is all IEEE reserved and registered. So the 5254 is been reserved for the unique identifier, and usually, typically, that would indicate the vendor, right? That is predefined these reserved addresses. Here at Supermicro for the BMC, we have an allotment of that unique identifier, and those serial numbers have been registered, right? So easily for troubleshooting, you can determine usually, the type of VM that's deployed and whether it be ESXi for VMware or CentOS or whatever. So there's a whole place you can go look at these reserved addresses to see who has been uniquely assigned these MAC address pools. All right, so enough of that. So we're going to CD to etc netplan. So netplan is our friend here. And when we get into the netplan directory, first thing we want to do is remember we're coming in as an unprivileged user. So we want to do a sudo su and then type in our password. Don't be a fool like me sometimes when you do a nano or VI or Vim into the file, and then all of a sudden you find out, oh man, I don't have privileges or credentials, and it's in read-only mode. And then you type all the information in, and you're ready to basically save it, and then all of a sudden it tells you, oh, you can't save it because you're in read mode because you're not privileged, right? So get in a habit of doing the sudo su and making those changes in the file. So the next thing we're going to do is you can use Vim, you can use VI, or you can use Nano. I like to use Nano. And what we're going to do is scroll up here and give it an IP address. So when you're looking at the script here, there is what we call column delineation, right? So be careful when you're adding the information in here of assigning your IP address associated with the script. You follow that what we call that column delineation. Otherwise, when you run a netplan and apply and run that script, it's going to basically bark at you and say, look it, you haven't set these column delineations up correctly. So just beware of that when you're adding it in. So we're going to define a static address here. So we're going to turn the DHCP flag to false. The next thing we're going to do is basically space over, and we're going to use the word addresses, and then plug in our address in the next line. which is under D. So we're going to do a dash there, and then we're going to put 172.199.4146/24 because we're in a Class C subnet. And then we're going to put in the routes command in here. Oops, I've tabbed over too far. Routes is going to be right under the word addresses. And then we're going to put our default route in, or sometimes people call it the gateway of last resort or all balls route there, T2. And then we're going to say 0.0.0.0/0. And then we're going to scroll down to the next line and put via. And then we're going to plug in our gateway address there of 126. And then add our name server information here. If you have a corporate name server, you can plug these in. You can add in a primary, secondary, and tertiary. Let's make sure we spell this correctly. Oops. Name servers, right? Make sure you spell each of these labels correctly. Otherwise, it's going to bark at you when you run the script. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to tab over there and we're going to use the flag addresses. And then we're going to put in our friend Google here of the IP address 8.8.8. You can put in your DNS corporate information in there and then version 2. And that should be it. So let's just verify that our script is correct here before we get out and save it. So we have DHCP4 false, addresses of 172.24.199.146/24, routes 0.0.0/0 to the 126 gateway, name server addresses. Okay, we should be good. So let's scroll down here again and fight with the mouse and then say Control X. Yes, we want to save it. And let's cat out that file first. Take a look at it. Looks pretty good. And then we're going to do the net plan apply. And we were successful, right? So no errors, right? So we put all the information in there correctly, lined up with columns correctly. So let's look at now our IP address. It's definitely on the ENP1's S0 interface. Let's ping it ourselves and 146. Okay. And we can ping ourselves. Let's see if we can ping out onto the internet. And yes, we can. So we are now out onto the internet, right? And we can ping it. But what I want to show you here is, let's say that you weren't able to ping it, right? So how would you troubleshoot that? How would you determine what's going on? And so when you look at this, we're going to go back into compress mode here, and we're going to look at stuff here. So you notice here, we're at 2 CPUs, and the requirement is basically 16 CPUs, right? So we want to change it, right? We want to change it to 16, but these will not take effect until the next shutdown and reboot, right? So it's the changes will take effect shutting down the VM. When you were using Virtual Machine Manager, if you recall or remember, there was a little light bulb that you clicked on onto the top, which basically set these various variables like boot order and what bridge you were connecting to and what the memory size was and so on and so forth, right? It wouldn't allow you to change them, right? You had to shut down that VM to make those changes. And then once you were able to bring the VM back up or boot the operating system, those changes took into effect. So they improved on this experience, right? Where now you can make those changes, but it actually flags you to say, look, you made these changes now, so you need to at this point reboot the server, right? Um, so of course it's not going to show this now. It's still 2, right? Because we haven't rebooted that server. And then at this point, we're going to run or when the host boots. So we're going to do an auto start to make sure that that's set, right? Because what will happen there is if you do not set that on, what's going to happen is when the virtual machine does reboot and say you had a power outage associated with the KVM hypervisor, your VMs won't start automatically, right? So, and then you wonder, well, what's going on? How come my developer console isn't working, right? Because what you did is you never set the auto start flag there. All right. So one other thing I want to show you here, which again is just for our developer lab. This is something you may want to consider, you may not, is being able to allow root to basically access and come in as a privileged user of root instead of having to use sudo su. So this is your choice depending on your security posturing associated with your enterprise. For us, it's flexible. I'm going to show you this anyways. But again, that's a decision that you make, whether you want to do this or not. All right. So let's go back into expand mode here and get into the operating system. And let's clear this because it's a little bit off the screen here, and then come back up here. And then what we want to do here is let's back up to Etsy and go into SSH. So this is so it allows you to be able to SSH into the system using root. I use a utility called PuTTY, which you can use on your Windows host or your laptop. I have, and then that allows you to get access in to your developer console itself from the kernel perspective. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's at this point issue a nano. Let's do an ls first. The file you're talking about is ssh_config.d that we want to manipulate. So we're going to go in there, ssh _config d, and let's scroll up. Did I spell it right? No, I did not spell it. So let's get out of there and make sure we spell it correctly here first. So Control X. And then at this point, let's make sure that we are out of this environment. Okay, and go back in and look at the ls command again here. Make sure we are spelling the file correctly, and it's .d instead. And notice here, I did it again, right? See, it's showing you that you actually are in what we refer to as read-only mode, right? So again, let's get out of here, do a sudo su, and then do a nano ssh_config.d. ssh_config.d. And let's go up here and let's see what's going on here. I am struggling here at the moment here. ssh_config.d. I know what I'm doing wrong. Silly me. Silly me. It's shd underscore config dot d. So cat ssh d underscore config dot d. It's indicating I'm having a directory here. Let me do some troubleshooting here and get back to you on this one. Let's see if it's ssh underscore config. Okay, sorry about that. It's the ssh config file. So we want to go ahead here and get into that contents of that file. And what we're going to do here is tab down. And what we're looking for is the permit command. Let's find it here. Okay, scrolling down and trying to find where this is. This is not the correct file. What I'll do with this is let's pause this particular video. Let me do some troubleshooting here and finding out exactly the right file we want to actually change. And then we can kick off in the next session the Yum update and upgrade. Or I'm sorry, the apt-get update and apt-get upgrade. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining. We'll see you across the aisle.